Om Namo Narayanaye. Om Namo Narayanaye.
Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing on with our discussion about Ekadashi Vratam, the 11th day of the moon, fasting on the 11th day of the moon. We've gone through general rules and regulations. We've understood the terminology. And we have also gone through exceptions. We've also seen exceptions to those exceptions. The three Ekadashis of Chatumasya, the one, there's more than three, but there's the one in the beginning, the one at the end, and the one in the very middle, the Shayana Ekadashi, Utana Ekadashi, and the Parshva Parivartana Ekadashi. We've seen how important those are. And now we're going to get at, normally after in Hari Bhakti Vilas, the author usually gives us all the information and gives us all the exceptions and things like that, then proceeds to a Mahatmyam, which is a series of verses that he's got from different scriptures praising the glories of Ekadashi Vratam and trying to enthuse people to perform Ekadashi Vratam. And maybe at the end of that, there'll also be some verses condemning people who don't follow Ekadashi Vratam. Let's see. Okay, so we'll take it up at, we're in the 12th Vilas. So we are in the 12th Vilas of Hari Bhakti Vilas, and this is 12th Vilas, text 105, the glories of Ekadashi, or the Ekadashi Vratam. From the Tattva Sagara, it's stated, for the welfare of all people, the Supreme Lord has introduced the great vow of Ekadashi, just as he arranged for the mother to take care of the child and medicinal herbs to cure diseases. So these things are all coming about by the will of the Lord. So text 106. One must be considered most intelligent and glorious who, after receiving the human form of life in conditional life, which is full of distress, observes the vow of Ekadashi. Text 107. One who gives up the vow of observing Ekadashi to follow some other vow abandons the most precious jewel in the search for a lump of dirt. Text 108. Simply by observing a single Ekadashi, by completely fasting and worshipping Lord Janardana, even with an offering of water, even by worshipping Lord Janardana with an offering of water, one can achieve liberation from material existence. Text 109. O Lord of the demigods, by coincidence, due to pride or because of greed, if someone observes the vow of Ekadashi, he will certainly be relieved of all kinds of miseries. Text 110. To cure the most dreaded diseases and to award peace to the distressed living entities of this material world, the Supreme Lord has prescribed fasting on Ekadashi as a supreme remedy. Text 111. Simply by observing fasting on Ekadashi, one can be relieved from the poisonous effects of the snake-like material existence and the distresses resulting from sinful activities. Text 112. Vishishta made the following statements, as found in the Narada Purana. O foremost king, the wood-like sinful reactions that have been accumulated during the past 100 lifetimes can be burnt to ashes by the fire of observing the vow of Ekadashi. So there's an analogy of Ekadashi being like a fire, which destroys your sinful reactions, which are compared to wood. Text 113, O king, there is no pious activity equal to the vow of observing Ekadashi for destroying all kinds of sinful reactions. Text 114, O king, sinful activities continue to reside within the body of a human being until he observes the vow of Ekadashi. Text 115, thousands of horse sacrifices and hundreds of Vajrapaya sacrifices, which are big Vedic sacrifices, do not award even 1/16 the benefit derived by following the Ekadashi Vratam. Text 116, O Lord, the reactions of all kinds of sinful activities performed by a person through his 11 senses, right? So he has 10 senses plus the mind, right? So there are 5 working senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and the mind, right, can instantly be destroyed by fasting on Ekadashi. Text 117, there is nothing equal to the vow of Ekadashi for destroying sinful reactions. Observing Ekadashi awards one heavenly pleasure or liberation in the next life, and prosperity and good children in this life. Text 118, the vow of Ekadashi awards one a qualified wife and makes his body free from disease. Text 119. O Lord of the earth, taking a ritualistic bath in the Ganges, visiting Gaya, Kashi, Pushkar, or Kurukshetra, or bathing in the Reva, Vedika, Yamuna, or Chandrabhaga rivers, cannot be compared to following the vow of Ekadashi. So visiting all these holy places and taking bath in these holy rivers is not comparable to following Ekadashi. Text 120. O king, if one artificially follows Ekadashi, still he will not be punished in the abode of Yamaraja. Indeed, such a person easily attains Vaikuntha. So even if you do it artificially. Text 121. The vow of Ekadashi is just like a touchstone because it bestows upon one all kinds of benefit. It is very great, like an ocean or a desire tree, and is equal to the study of all the Vedic literatures. Text 122. Elsewhere in the same Purana, it is stated, all the past sinful reactions of a person who follows Ekadashi by fasting, controlling his senses, and worshipping Lord Madhusudana are burnt to ashes. What then is the need for him to perform austerities or sacrifice? Text 123. O exalted king, those who observe the vow of Ekadashi will obtain a four-armed form like the associates of Lord Vishnu and will be adorned with a flower garland and yellow garments while ascending to the abode of Lord Hari, riding on a chariot bearing the flag of Garuda. So this is called Swarupya Mukti, having a form just like Sarupya, not Swarupya, Sarupya Mukti, or Sarupya liberation, attaining the same bodily features as the Lord in Vaikuntha. Text 124. O king, I have thus described the glories of Dwadasi, which is just like a blazing fire that burns to ashes all reactions to sinful activities. Text 125. It's also said, O Brahmana, the supreme abode of Lord Hari, which may or may not be attained by those who perform sacrifice or cultivate Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya is the Vedic form of scientific philosophy, right, where they explain about the creation and the elements and all these things, can be easily attained by those following the vow of Ekadashi. Text 126. O Brahmana, even if a person fasts on Ekadashi because he has nothing to eat, he will still receive the complete benefits of fasting. So even if you have nothing to eat, you're starving, if Ekadashi comes around, you obtain the benefit of that fast. O Brahmana, even if one fasts on Ekadashi while in prison under the order of a king, he will also obtain the full benefit of fasting. Text 128. In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it is stated, the vow of observing Ekadashi undoubtedly burns to ashes all kinds of sinful reactions, including the reactions to sins committed in previous lives, as well as those committed in the present life. Text 129. O Bhargava, other than observing the vow of Ekadashi, there is no atonement for very grievous sinful activities performed in this life and in previous lives. So that's interesting. That's an interesting verse there. It's saying basically, follow Ekadashi and you can get rid of, it's a prayashchita, it's an atonement. It will get rid of all the reactions to sinful activities in this life and previous lives. But otherwise, what atonement can there be for sins that you perform in this life or in the other lives? Text 130. It's also said, O Brahmana, one who faithfully observes the vow of Ekadashi is considered to have atoned for all his sinful activities. Indeed, he's freed from the vicious cycle of repeated birth and death and achieves liberation. Text 131. Even a person who's committed sinful activities during the previous 14 days and then fasts on the 15th day, which happens to be Ekadashi, right? is freed from all types of sinful reactions. So what we're understanding is, we understood from the beginning the definition of a lunar month is 30 days, 30 lunar days, which are called tithis. So Ekadashi is the 11th tithi of the bright fortnight or the dark fortnight. So if you go from the one Ekadashi to the next Ekadashi, and in that time you commit some sinful activity by the fast or performing the vrata of the next Ekadashi, that you become freed from all the sinful activities that you performed before from the last Ekadashi. Yeah, and this is similar to what we say in Sandhyavandanam when we sip water in Sandhyavandanam for Agamarshana or for Prasana. We are saying in the morning, we're saying whatever sins were committed in the night before, let those be gone. Whatever in the noon, we say whatever sins we committed in the morning, whatever sins we committed in the afternoon, we say at night, like that. So, like that. So here is a very similar statement here. It's basically saying, don't worry, if you committed some sins in the meantime between the last Ekadashi and now, those will also be gone by practicing the Ekadashi Vratam again. The text 132. The conclusion derived from an exhaustive study of the Puranas by great sages is that by fasting on Ekadashi, one becomes free of all kinds of sinful reactions. There's no doubt of this. Text 133. O Brahmana, for those who have acted whimsically and whose hearts are polluted by acts of cruelty and violence, there is no alternative for being delivered from the material existence than observing the vow of Ekadashi. Text 134. It's also said, observing the vow of Ekadashi is the most essential vow, the essence of wisdom and the essence of truth. It is the foremost means of atonement as well. Text 135. It's also said, fasting on Ekadashi while remembering the lotus feet of Govinda, Lord Krishna, is the assured means for one to be delivered from the repetition of birth and death. Text 136. At the end of the same Purana, it is stated, offering prayers to the Lord on Ekadashi, either with affection, with devotion, or with envy, right? Completely absolves one from all sinful reactions. So even if we offer prayers to the Lord on Ekadashi with affection or devotion, but even out of envy, if we offer prayers to the Lord, still we'll be absolved from all our sinful reactions. Text 137. It is also said, O Shonaka, the vow of Ekadashi is the abode of all happiness, religious principles, and good qualities. In this age of Kali is the best form of religion. So that's interesting. It says here in the second line, Kali Ketu Uktaha, right? Ekadashi Vratam Idam Kali Ketu Uktaha. Said to be the best in Kali Yuga. Right? So it is very dear to Lord Vishnu, the master of the universe. One who faithfully observes this vow achieves liberation. Text 138. At the end of the same Purana, it is stated, one who hears the glories of Ekadashi with faith, who follows the vow of Ekadashi, who approves of it, and who inspires others to follow it, is liberated from all sinful reactions and ascends to the transcendental abode of Lord Narayana, whose chariot is decorated with the flag of Garuda. So you hear the glories, which we just spoke about, the glories of Ekadashi. You follow the vow of Ekadashi, or you approve of the vow of Ekadashi, or you inspire other people to follow Ekadashi. All of those things are going to lead to liberation and getting rid of all the sinful reactions that you have. So text 139, in a conversation between Devaduta and Vikundala that is found in the Vaishaka Mahatma, which is the glorification of the month of Vaishak, in the Padma Purana, it is said, I have personally heard from the mouth of Yamaraja, the Lord of rules, the Lord of chastisement, that if despite many obstacles one's fasts on Ekadashi, even once, he will not be subjected to the punishment by the Lord of death. Text 140. O Vaishya, whatever sinful activities are committed by men with the help of their 11 senses can at once be nullified by observing the vow of Ekadashi. Text 141. There is no piety in this world equal to observing the vow of Ekadashi. Those who observe this vow, even with a cheating mentality, are never subject to the punishment of Yamaraja. Text 142. It's also said, by fasting on Ekadashi during one's childhood, during youth, and when one is elderly, one can certainly avoid the miseries of material existence. Text 143. In a conversation between Yamaraja and a Brahmana that's found in the Vaishaka Mahatma, which we just talked about in section of the Padma Purana, right? It is said, those who observe the vow of Ekadashi during both the waxing and waning of the moon, follow all the prescribed rules and regulations, following all the prescribed rules and regulations, will attain the abode of the Lord in Vaikuntha. The abode of the Lord Vaikuntha. You will attain that abode. Text 144. It's also said, there is no better vow than Ekadashi for being delivered from all sinful reactions. By properly following this vow, one is assured to be elevated in his next life. Text 145. O Brahmana, whatever sins one commits by utilizing his 11 senses are quickly nullified when one follows the vow of Ekadashi. Ultimately, such a person is assured of a heavenly destination. Text 146. It's also said, on one side of a scale, if one places all kinds of sacrifices, holy places, penances, and charities, and on the other side, the vow of Ekadashi, which is very, very dear to the Vaishnavas, is placed on the scale will be seen to balance. So it's equal. The vow of Ekadashi is equal to all other kinds of sacrifices, holy places, pilgrimages, and penances and charities. Text 147. Once, when Lord Brahma placed the principles followed by the Vaishnavas on one side of a scale, and ordinary religious principles, such as sacrificial performances, on the other, the Vaishnava principles were seen to be heavier. They were greater. Among the Vaishnava religious principles, the foremost is the vow of Ekadashi. It's a very nice verse. Text 148. O Brahmana, I have no power to punish those whose son or grandson have observed fasting on Ekadashi. Indeed, I am afraid of such persons because such great souls deliver 100 generations of their families. This must be spoken followed by Yamaraja. Text 149. The suitable candidate for attaining liberation is one who follows the vow of Ekadashi during both the waxing and waning of the moon. Text 150. In a conversation between Yamaraja and Dhumraketu that is found in the Kartik Mahatma, the glories of the month of Kartik, section of the Padma Purana, it said, if in this life one observes the vow of Ekadashi, one will be liberated from all sinful reactions at the end of life, be transferred to the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. Text 151. O Varabharnini, it is a fact that the vow of Dwadasi awards the perfection of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation to those who observe it and fulfills all their desires. So these are the four common aims or goals of human life. They are religiosity, dharma, economic development, artha, sense gratification, kama, and ultimate liberation, moksha, right? And so it awards all those things and fulfills all desires. Text 152. Oh, beautiful one, if one can observe even a single Ekadashi properly, then what is the need for him to give charity, perform penance, or visit holy places of pilgrimage? The Creator has inaugurated this one vow for achieving all types of benefit. Text 153. In the conversation between Lord Siva and Parvati that is found in the Uttarakanda, the last kanda of the Padma Purana, it is stated, one who gives up following the vow of Ekadashi to perform some other vow certainly gives up a great jewel to beg for alms, right? So why would you go, if you've got this huge jewel of Ekadashi. Ekadashi is considered great riches, right? Why would you give it up to just go begging? Text 154, in the Skanda Purana, it's described, observing the vow of Ekadashi, even on days when there is no auspicious stars, such as Pusha. Pusha is a nakshatra or a star out of the 27 or 28 sometimes. Sometimes there's a star called Abhijit, which is considered the 28th star, but usually there's these 27 stars that are basically constellations around the ecliptic, around the Earth as we look up in the sky. And so even if there's no auspicious star like Pusha, the word pushti means to increase or to nourish, right? So Pusha, if you do anything on Pusha Nakshatra, on the star day of Pusha, it's supposed to be good. It's supposed to increase it. It's supposed to be beneficial. So even if there's no auspicious stars such as Pusha, right? If you follow the vow of Ekadashi, it vanquishes all one's sinful reactions, just as a sinful king takes away all the wealth of his subjects. Well, that's an interesting analogy. A sinful king like King Vena in the Bhagavatam was a sinful king, and he took away all the wealth of his subjects. So text 155, a woman with beautiful eyebrows, giving charity. A woman with beautiful eyebrows, giving charity, undergoing penance, and bathing in sacred lakes and rivers does not ensure one's liberation from material existence. On the other hand, the vow of Ekadashi certainly awards one liberation. Text 156. Simply by fasting once on Ekadashi, all of one's sinful reactions are vanquished. Learned scholars of the Vedas have stated that giving the entire earth in charity is not equal to following the vow of Ekadashi. So even if you owned the whole earth and you gave it away as charity, it's not equal to following one Ekadashi. The glories of Ekadashi are matchless. It means they're unlimited. We can't describe how great they are. Text 157 to 159. While chastising his messengers, the Yamadutas, Yamaraj spoke these verses, which are found in the Amrita Sarodhara. So there's a scripture called Amrita Sarodhara, which is like the ocean of nectar, basically. All right, let's look at this. Oh, messengers, I forgive the sins of enjoying sex with prohibited partners, killing one's friends, conversing with atheists, associating with sinful people, accepting charity when not qualified to do so, and breaking vows, such as celibacy, of those who strictly observe the vow of Ekadashi. So if you strictly observe, all those sins will be wiped away. Text 160 to 161. Therefore, in the same literature, which was the Amrita Sarodhara, right, we find the following statements. O Shatananda, I award liberation to 3 generations of the family of one who fasts on Ekadashi. Your messengers, if you actually desire my welfare, then do not bring to me those who commit hundreds of sinful activities, but who fast on Ekadashi, right? So Yamaraj is instructing his messengers, the Yamadutas, not to bring the souls of people who are great sinners, but who have followed Ekadashi to him. Text 162, even a dog eater, right? So here the word for dog eater is in the first line, chandala, right? It's another word, swapacha, is also for dog eater. Even a dog eater is considered to be the best of men if he fasts on Ekadashi, whereas a Brahman, down here, right, it says Vipras, means a learned Brahman, right? Chaturvedi, a person who is well versed in the 4 Vedas, is considered most fallen if he eats on Ekadashi. Right? Text 163, in the conversation between Lord Brahma and Narada, which is found in the same literature, this verse appears. The vow of Dwadashi is famous as a desire tree because it's able to award all the objectives of life. Simply by remembering and chanting the glories of Dwadashi, devotees can achieve the ultimate goal of life. Text 164. O child, the benefit one obtains by fasting on Dwadashi cannot be achieved by performing thousands of forced sacrifices or bathing in millions of holy places. Text 165. Those who observe the vow of Dwadashi are glorified everywhere. They do not have to fear any disease or harassment caused by miscreants. Text 166. Just as those who always remember Lord Hari never suffer from mental or physical distress, those who observe the vow of Dwadashi do not feel the influence of the threefold miseries. Text 167. Those who observe Dwadashi are always eager to hear discussions of the glories of Lord Hari. They are awarded fearlessness, and they always achieve victory in battle. Text 168. Those who devotedly observe the vow of Dwadasi will develop firm attachment for devotional service unto Lord Krishna and will never become entangled in sinful activities. Text 169. These confidential topics have thus been discussed with reference to scriptural injunctions. One should give up all varieties of religious performances in this age of Kali and strictly follow the vow of Ekadashi. Text 170. In this age of Kali, those who recite the glories of Dwadasi will not suffer from mental agony or dreaded diseases. Text 171. The merit that cannot be obtained by visiting holy places such as Kurukshetra or bathing at Prayaga, which is the confluence of the rivers at Allahabad or at Kashi, the Benares, right, with Ganges and Yamuna, right, can be obtained simply by hearing about the glories of Dwadasi. Text 172, in the Bhavishya Purana, it's stated the vow of observing Ekadashi is a very great art of piety. It destroys all sinful reactions. It enhances one's devotional service to Lord Vishnu, and it awards the ultimate goal of life. Those who fast on Ekadashi will be freed from the entanglement of material existence. Text 173. One who fasts on Ekadashi and then eats during the first 3 hours of the next morning will be relieved of all distressful conditions and never have to experience hellish life. Okay, so here it mentions, it doesn't exactly say, right? I don't see exactly where it says 3 hours. Maybe that's stated in the purport, but that is called a prahara. A section 3 hours. There are 8 praharas in a day and night. So 3 hours is a prahara. So the prahara, the first 3 hours of the day, right? The first 3 hours of the day means after sunrise, from sunrise for the first 3 hours. Now there may be other calculations that we have to take into consideration here. So let's go on. But that's the first we've heard about when we have to break the fast on the Odyssey day. Right, so text 174. Even after committing thousands of sinful activities, if one fasts on Ekadashi and then worships Lord Vishnu on Dwadasi, he will be relieved of all miserable conditions of life. Text 175. This most auspicious day is very sacred, and it is very pleasing to the Supreme Controller, Lord Vishnu. Although the Lord of the universe is non-manifest within this world, he assumes a transcendental form on this auspicious day. For this reason, Dwadasi is the destroyer of all sinful reactions, and it mitigates all miseries. Text 176. She who is the unlimited energy of Lord Vishnu, who is all-pervading throughout the universe, and who is most chaste, has appeared on the holy day, Ekadashi. Text 177. Sanat Kumar has stated, after committing thousands of sinful activities, one who desires to become purified must strictly observe at least one Ekadashi. The benefit obtained, text 178, the benefit obtained from observing all the other vows can be achieved simply by observing the vow of Ekadashi. Whatever merit can be achieved with great endeavor by following other vows, whatever piety can be attained by performing various religious rituals, are awarded to one who observes the vow of Ekadashi. Text 179. In the Shora Dharma, it's stated, once when Lord Brahma placed all kinds of fire sacrifices such as Agnihotra on one side of a scale and the vow of observing Dwadasi on the other side, Dwadasi was seen to be heavier, it was greater. The text 180 to 181. In the Devi Rahasya, the secrets of Devi, right? And Skanda Purana, in 2 scriptures, it said, it is said that there are 5 classifications of sinful activities: Pataka, Atipataka, Upapataka, Mahapataka, and Prakirna. Okay, so Mahapataka means there are 5 Mahapatakas, which are great sins. There are also many Upapatakas. Upapataka means minor sins. So here it's saying that there's actually 5 different types of sins. So there's Pataka, ordinary sins, Atipatika means very bad sins. Upapatika means not so bad sins. Mahapatika means the greatest sins. And prakirna, I'm not really sure what prakirna means. If we just have a look, we can have a look in the Sanskrit dictionary and see what prakirna means. So prakirna means prakirna means, I guess, maybe miscellaneous types of sins. I'm not exactly sure. Miscellaneous sins. Okay, sort of like, other sins. Okay. All these sins can be washed away by fasting on Ekadashi, just as a clay pot kept in water gradually disintegrates. So if you have a clay pot which hasn't been fired in an oven, right? If you keep it in water, it'll turn into mud because it hasn't been fired in the oven, in the kiln. Okay, so text 182 from the Devi Rahasya, it's stated, just as the Gayatri mantra absolves one of all types of sinful reactions, the vow of Ekadashi purifies one in the same way. So we should always, this reminds us that we should perform the Sandhya Vandana, we should do the Gayatri Japa and use the Gayatri mantra for offering arghya to the sun 3 times a day. The Gayatri mantra absolves us from sins, so does Ekadashi. Very good. Text 183 to 185 from the Vayu Puranas and Skanda Puranas, right? It is stated, the sin of eating abominable food, meaning food that you shouldn't eat, the sin of enjoying sex with a prohibited partner, the sin of worshipping unfit persons. So there are only certain persons who are fit to be worshipped, right? The sin of touching those who are contaminated, the sin of blaspheming others, the sin of boasting, the sin of enjoying sex with another man's wife, the sin of not following scriptural injunctions, the sin of stealing others' wealth. These are all considered great sins, actually. These are all mahapatikas, right? The word, it's interesting here because it mentions different types of patikas. Let's see. We have, if we go down to the 3rd verse here, we have patika and upapatika. Patikam cha upapatikam. And we have, so great sins and lesser sins, right? So, right, so all these different sins, as well as all other grave and minor sins that are committed due to being blinded by passion, can be vanquished by fasting on Ekadashi. Text 186. The Lord Brahma spoke this verse which is found in the Vishnu Rahasya, the secrets of Lord Vishnu, esoteric secrets of Lord Vishnu. Those who desire to follow the vow of Dwadasi, even within their minds, are surely delivered from the formidable ocean of material existence. So just if you desire, just in your mind, if you desire to follow Ekadashi or Dwadasi Vrata like that, you get freed from material existence. So text 187, Vishnu Purana. From Vishnu Purana, it says, just as the pranava, which is Omkara, right? In the first line, it says Omkara. It doesn't even say pranava, it says Omkara, is worshipped at the beginning of all Vedic mantras, right? The vow of observing Dwadasi is worshipped at the beginning of performing all other vows or all other vratas. Text 188. Chandra Sharma spoke this verse to Lord Krishna as found in the Dwarka Mahatmyam, which is the glories of the city of Dwarka, Lord Krishna's city of Dwarka, capital city. If the devotees who are attached to your lotus feet sometimes commit a sin, they still do not suffer any reaction. What then can be said of those who follow the vow of Dwadasi? Text 189. Prahlada spoke this verse to Bali, King Bali, as found in the same literature. As there is no heat in the moon or cold in fire, there can be no simple reactions in Vaishnavas who fast on Ekadashi. Text 190. From the Vaishnava Tantra, it is stated, Ekadashi is very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu and awards one supreme piety. One who fasts on Ekadashi and then faithfully worships Lord Hari on Odyssey is freed from all sinful reactions and achieves the platform of pure devotional service to Lord Vishnu. Text 191. In the beginning of the Ekadashi Mahatma, so there's a glorification of Ekadashi, in the Brihad Naradiya Purana, it's stated, even those who have committed grave sinful activities or have committed every kind of sin can be completely purified and attain the supreme abode of the Lord by fasting on Ekadashi. Text 192 in the Vayu Purana, it's stated, if a devotee engaged in the devotional service of the Lord observes the vow of Ekadashi, he will be free from all sinful reactions and attain the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. Text 193 and 194 in the Vishnu Dharmottara, which is a Purana, right? It says, one who fasts on Ekadashi is immediately liberated from all sinful reactions, just as a snake casts off its slough. The snakes shed their skin. Yeah. Such a person will not suffer from any ailment, and he will never experience the torments of hellish life. Indeed, he will become the object of everyone's respect and worship. He is certainly a dear devotee of Lord Krishna. One who faithfully observes every Ekadashi, this is text 195, one who faithfully observes every Ekadashi will be elevated to the abode of Lord Vishnu and assume a form, the same form as that of the Lord. Like this is called again, Sarupya Moksha or Sarupya Mukti, liberation, having the same form as the Lord. Text 196. In the Agni Purana, it's stated, those who observe all Ekadashis with devotion will achieve the supreme abode of Lord Hari in the spiritual sky. Text 197. In the Shiva Purana, it's stated, one who devotedly observes fasting on Ekadashi will attain the abode of Lord Vishnu, having achieved a form like that of the Lord. Again, a reference to Sarupya Mukti. Text 198. Although the jewel-like glories of Ekadashi are present within the ocean-like scriptures, who is qualified to collect them without the mercy of Lord Krishna? Although the jewel-like glories of Ekadashi are present within the ocean-like scriptures, who is qualified to collect them without the mercy of Lord Krishna? So the author here is saying, he's saying that only by the mercy of the Lord, he could collect all these proofs together from different scriptures about the glories of Ekadashi. So now we start another section. The next section with text 199 is starting with Ata Upavasa Dina Nirnaya, the way to Nirnaya, to distinguish or to determine, right, the day for Upavasa. Remember we said Upavasa means, Vasa means to dwell, Upa means close. The day when we should be dwelling very close to the Lord. We should do more devotional service. Upavasa also sometimes is understood, therefore, to mean fasting, because we try to minimize all other material activities, try to maximize our devotional service to Lord. So how do we determine these fasting days? How do we determine these fasting days? Now in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this sloka here, this first sloka here is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Sanatana Goswami to write the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, to write a manual for Gaudiya Vaishnavas to follow for their behavior, right? The behavior of his followers, right? He says that one of the subjects that should be told of by Sanatana and later on by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, right, should be Ekadashi. But he says there are two kinds of Ekadashis. There are pure Ekadashis and mixed Ekadashis. So now we're going to enter into that discussion. And we should always observe the pure Ekadashi and we should avoid the mixed Ekadashi. What does that mean? It's coming up. So there are two kinds of Ekadashis, pure Ekadashis and mixed Ekadashis. What does that mean? Mixed Ekadashis are further divided into two other categories, Purva Vida and Para Vida. Purva means coming before, Para means coming after, right? Okay. So if an Ekadashi is mixed with Dasami, one should reject it. So when we say mixed Ekadashis, right? Mixed Ekadashi, right? If the Ekadashi is mixed with Dasami, Dasami is the 10th day, the 10th lunar day. Now, lunar day can extend beyond the solar day to the next day. It can even extend over 3 days sometimes, not completely over 3 days, but, parts of 3 days. Because remember, the Vedic day is from sunrise to then sunrise the next day. So at sunrise on a particular day, it could still be Dasami. It could still be the 10th lunar day. right? And then the next day sunrise, it still could be the lunar day Dasani, right? So when do we observe Ekadashi? So that's the point, right? So we have to avoid the lunar days which are mixed with Dasani once you reject them. So text, we'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. So text 200 in the Paitinashi Shmriti, it is stated, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a Shmriti Shastra. On a Shasti, or a sixth day, mixed with a Panchami, or a fifth day. On a Saptami, or a seventh day, mixed with a sixth Shasti, or sixth day. And on an Ekadashi, or 11th day, mixed with a Dasani, 10th day. A learned devotee should not fast. Okay, so here we have this statement here. So we need to remember that. If Shasti, if the sixth day is mixed with the fifth day, you can't fast. If the seventh day is mixed with the sixth day, you can't fast. And if the 11th day is mixed with the 10th day, you can't fast. Okay, that's the rule, and that's a general rule. And so we should have to take that into account when we look at the Panchangam, at the Vedic calendar, and try to understand that. Yeah. So in the Sharada Purana, I don't know if I've ever heard of the Sharada Purana. It could be Devi Bhagavata or Devi Purana, whatever it is. But here it says, text 201, and text 201, it says, if Ekadashi, the 11th day, Shasti, the 6th day, Purnima, the 15th day of the dark fortnight, right? Because the dark fortnight gets brighter, right? Starts out dark. Purnima comes at the end of Purnima comes at the end of the light fortnight, right? So the waxing fortnight, and ultimately continues to wax until the end of that fortnight is Purnima, right? So on the 11th day, the 6th day, the full moon day, the Chaturdasi, the 14th day, the 3rd day, right? The Chaturdasi is the 14th day, the Tritiya is the 3rd day, the Chaturthi, the 4th day, Amavasya, the new moon or the no moon day, or Astami, the 8th day, extend to the next day, one should not fast. So if those lunar tithis extend over to the next sunrise, past the next sunrise, then one should not fast on that next day. However, if they are mixed with the previous day, I'm sorry, if the first sentence said you should fast. If they extend over to the next day, you should fast on that day, right? You should fast on the second day. If, however, they're mixed with the previous day, then you don't fast. So normally what happens is we look in the calendar and we see that the Smartas or the Advaitins, the Mayavadis, or general Hindus in general, maybe some Vaishnava Sampradayas, they fast or they observe Ekadashi on the day before, and the Vaishnavas observe it on the next day. So that's usually what it is. If in doubt, if there's 2 days which are labeled as Ekadashi, fast on the second day. Don't fast on the first one. The Smartas will fast on the first one. Vaishnavas will fast on the second one. Even if there's only a few minutes of Ekadashi Titi left after sunrise on the next day, still that's the day to fast. Okay, so that's the rule of thumb. Text 202. In the Sora Dhammottara, it's stated, one should always fast on a pure Ekadashi. So if at sunrise it's Ekadashi, then there's no problem. Fast on that day. A pure Dwadasi, right? Fasting on a Dwadasi means what? It means we have to break the Ekadashi fast, but after the Ekadashi fast in the evening, we have to fast we only take one meal on Dwadasi, right? Or an Ekadashi mixed with Dwadasi, right? So if there's an Ekadashi mixed with Dwadasi, fast, but one should never fast with an Ekadashi, an 11th day mixed with the 10th day. So if you have a pure 11th day, if you have a pure 12th day, or if you have an 11th day which is mixed with the 12th day, that's okay. You can fast on those times. But if you have an 11th day which is mixed with the 10th day, don't fast. Okay, so now text 203. The fault of fasting on mixed Ekadashi. So he's just given the rules there. Now he's going to describe what happens if you break that rule. Right. So atra varshayani. So sage Varshayana has stated as follows: by fasting on Amavasya, the new moon, mixed with Chaturdasi, which is the 14th lunar day, which is just the day before the new moon, right? Or on Dasami, the 10th day, mixed with Ekadashi, the 11th day, or on Ekadashi, the 11th day, mixed with Dasami. What is he saying here? Dasami mixed with Ekadashi, or Ekadashi mixed with Dasami. That is the same thing. I don't understand what the difference between, why say that twice. Okay, we'll have to look into that. One's hopes for attaining heaven and his previously accumulated piety are destroyed. So we just got here through hearing all the glories of following Ekadashi correctly. But if you don't follow it correctly, it has the opposite effect. It destroys all your piety. It destroys all your hopes for attaining liberation or going to heaven. Okay? So it's very important to determine the correct day to fast, to observe the vrata. So from Narada Smriti, text 204 says, if one observes a vow of Ekadashi the 11th day, when it is mixed with Dasami the 10th day, he will lose his children, and after death he will traverse the path to hell. Text 205. One should never observe the vow of Ekadashi when it is mixed with Dasami, so the 11th day mixed with the 10th day. If one observes such a vow, the piety he has accumulated during the last 100 years will be nullified. Text 206. It's also said, if one fasts on an Ekadashi mixed with Dasami, the 11th day mixed with the 10th day, his duration of life decreases. I, Narada, am telling you this for your benefit. Such a person will also lose his children. Text 207. It's further said, if out of illusion, one fasts on an Ekadashi that is mixed with even 1 hour of Dasami, so 11th day, which is mixed with even 1 hour of the 10th day, he will become bereft of both happiness and righteousness. Text 208, in the Vashishta Smriti, it's stated, an intelligent devotee should not observe an Ekadashi that is mixed with Dasami, the 11th day mixed with the 10th day. If he does, he will lose his children, and his chance for heavenly elevation will be spoiled. Text 209. In the Vrata Kanda, so the section on vows, in the Brahma Purana, it's stated, if by mistake one fasts on an Ekadashi that is mixed with the latter part of Dasami, right, he can neither achieve happiness in this life nor in the next. So 11th day mixed with the 10th day. Text 210. Being asked by Dhritarashtra, the sage Maitreya explained why he was separated from his wife and children. Text 211. He said, O king, you had previously observed an Ekadashi that was mixed with the last portion of Dasami, and for this reason that you are now in this situation, being separated from your wife and children. Maitreya explained it to him. Text 212 to 214. In the same Purana, it's also stated, once Lord Ramachandra's wife, Sita Devi, asked, I am neither independent nor unchaste. Moreover, I have not committed any sinful activity in this life. What sin did I commit in my previous birth so that I am now separated from my husband and we have to live in exile? We had to live in exile. So it's a good point, right? When the exalted sage Valmiki heard the words of Sita, right? Because Sita after in the end of the Ramayana, she was pregnant and she went to stay at the ashram of Valmiki, right? So Valmiki said to her, you had previously fasted on an Ekadashi that was mixed with Dasami, 11th day that was mixed with the 10th day, and then had worshipped Lord Janardana. As a result of this indiscretion or this mistake, you were put in this situation where you not only were banished from the kingdom, right, along with your husband, but you had to be separated even from your husband. Text 215 to 216. In replying to the question asked by the wife of Mandata, sage Vashishta replied, "O Devi, O chaste one, long ago you had observed an Ekadashi that was mixed with Dasami, an 11th day that was mixed with a 10th day. Because of this, you are now separated from your husband, children, and friends. You should accept this statement as factual." Text 217. Know for certain that all sinful activities are present in an Ekadashi that is mixed with Dashami. Right? So the Ekadashi which is mixed with Dashami has got all sinful activities present in it. All of one's piety that has been accumulated during the past 7 lifetimes are destroyed. Text 218. In the Kurma Purana, the Naradiya Purana, and the Vishnu Rahasya, in 3 of these scriptures, right, it is stated, a bewildered soul who observes the vow of an Ekadashi that is mixed with the last portion of Dasami, the 11th day mixed with the last portion of the 10th day, loses whatever pious merit he had accumulated by observing religious vows during the past 12 years. Text 219. Those who are very proud of their forefund of knowledge and who fast on an Ekadashi that is mixed with Dasami, the 11th day mixed with the 10th day, will suffer in hell for a period of 71 cycles of 4 yugas, which is the reign of a Manu. So there are these Manus who are progenitors, right? And they reign for 71 Divya Yugas, which is the Chatu Yugas, the Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. It makes one cycle of Yugas. So 71 times that. Text 220. By observing an Ekadashi which is mixed with Dasami, the 11th day mixed with the 10th day, one will not receive any benefit for following religious principles during the next 1 full year. Right. So even in the future, you have to work your way back to negative from negative. You have to suffer for the sinful reaction of doing this. Right. So even after doing a year of other pious activities or whatever, you still have to work your way back. So text 221 to 222 in the Bhavishya Purana, it's stated, if one desires to have good children, he should avoid observing an Ekadashi that's mixed with Dasami, that is 11th day mixed with the 10th day, for even the time required for blinking of an eye. So don't even think of observing the vow of Ekadashi on that mixed day, even for a second. There are 4 considerations in this regard, even though there are some concessions for those who are unable to completely fast, such as eating fruit at night that was obtained without begging. One should not observe an Ekadashi that is mixed with Dasami in this way. Text 223 to 225 in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it's stated, if a pitcher or a jug filled with Ganges water is touched by even a drop of wine in it, it becomes contaminated and must be rejected. So even if you have a big container full of Ganges water, but even if 1 drop of wine, of alcohol, goes in that, it gets contaminated and has to be rejected. Who other than Mahadeva, right, Lord Shiva, Maheshwara, is able to drink poison? So when the demons and demigods, when the suras and asuras churned the ocean of milk and made the nectar of immortality, one of the side products of the nectar of immortality was the Halahala Poison. There was this poison that came out. And Lord Shiva, in order to stop that poison from destroying the universe and poisoning all the living entities, he drank that poison and kept it within his throat, which turned his throat blue, which is the color of poison in the scriptures, right? So it turned his throat blue. So he is called Nilakanta, having the one that has the blue throat. And then while he was drinking that poison, a few drops of it fell down. Like when you drink, sometimes some drops fall down. And the scorpions and the snakes and the spiders and all the poisonous animals, they got those little drops of poison like that. But imagine, he drank most of it. So we see that there are poisonous animals and snakes and spiders and insects, in this world. They have only just got a few drops of that Halahala poison. So now he's saying it's a rhetorical question. Who other than Lord Shiva or Mahadeva could drink would be able to drink poison, right? Only a fool would try to do so. Don't try to drink poison. O foremost of sage, considering all this that I've just told you, learned devotees who aspire to attain the lotus feet of Lord Krishna have rejected the vow of observing Ekadashi, mixed Ekadashi, the one that is mixed with the final portion of Dasani, the 11th day mixed with the 10th day. From the Garuda Purana, text 226 is stated, O Brahmanas, learned personalities have always rejected the observing of mixed Ekadashi because the fasting on such an Ekadashi, one only achieves poverty and distress. Text 227 in the Naradiya Purana, it's stated, O exalted Brahmana, if an Ekadashi is mixed with even a tinge of Dasani, the 11th day even has got a tinge of Dasani, a little bit of Dasani, it should be rejected. As Ganges water, which is touched by a drop of wine, should be rejected, or as milk products kept in a pot made of dog skin should be rejected. Ekadashi polluted by the touch of Dasani, the 11th day polluted by the touch of the 10th day, should not be observed. Very, very heavy statement here. Text 228 from the Skanda Purana, it says, O Kartikeya. Kartikeya is the younger brother of Ganesh. He is the son of Shiva and Parvati, the other son of Shiva and Parvati. O commander-in-chief of the demigods, whose carrier is a peacock. At the end of Dwarpa Yuga, Gandhari, who will increase the progeny of the Kuru dynasty, will, out of foolishness, observe an Ekadashi polluted by Dasani, the 11th day polluted by the 10th day. As a result, she will lose her 100 sons. So we all know the story of Bhagavad Gita, the battle of Kurukshetra. The Kauravas were fighting, the Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas were fighting against the 100 sons. There were thousands, of course, other people also fighting. But the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, headed by Duryodhana. Right, so these were all the sons of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. So Gandhari, because she observed this, she made this mistake of observing a fast or a vratam on Ekadashi, the 11th day, which is mixed with the 10th day. Thus, as a result, her 100 sons got killed. Text 229. O Commander-in-Chief, O Kartikeya, O powerful one, if an Ekadashi is polluted by contact with even a fraction of a second of Dasani, one should not observe it. Text 230. It's also said, an Ekadashi that overlaps Dasani is considered demoniac, whereas an Ekadashi that overlaps Dwadasi is very, very dear to Lord Hari. Right? So we're going to hear about the Ekadashi when it overlaps Dwadasi. But when a Dasani overlaps Ekadashi, that's bad. But when an Ekadashi overlaps Dwadasi, that's very great. That's called a Mahadwadasi. So here we go. So now text 231, in the conversation between Uma, which means Parvati, and Maheshwara, which means Lord Shiva, that is found in the same literature, this verse appears. O foremost goddess, one who observes a vow of a mixed Ekadashi certainly renounces heavenly happiness to enjoy hellish life. Text 232. If one observes a mixed Ekadashi, it is as if he were to kill his forefathers and the demigods and hand over his kingdom to the demons. Text 233. Those who observe mixed Ekadashis and inspire others to do so certainly initiate a quarrel with their forefathers. Text 234. In the same literature, it's also stated, it should be understood that those who instruct others to observe the vow of Ekadashi when it's mixed with Dasani, the 11th day mixed with the 10th day, are sinful people bewildered by the illusion created by Shukracharya. Shukracharya was the spiritual master or teacher of, guru of Pali Maharaj, who was one of the Daityas. He was one of the demons. He was born in a demonic family. He was a descendant of Prahlad, but he actually became a devotee of Vishnu also. But Shukracharya was his guru, who told him not to worship Vishnu, not to give Vishnu, the Lord, in the form of Vaman Dev, any land, any donation. Text 235 to 236 says, remaining awake throughout the night. Remaining awake throughout the night. Again, we've heard this before, but now we're hearing it again, that on the Ekadashi, it's not just fasting, but you have to remain awake throughout the night. Worshipping Lord Hari and giving in charity are all in vain. All those things doing that are all in vain if performed on the Ekadashi mixed with Dasani, 11th day mixed with the 10th day. Just as all activities of an ungrateful person are utterly useless. If one remains awake all night on an Ekadashi mixed with Dasami, 11th day mixed with 10th day, Lord Vishnu curses him and neglects him. Text 237 to 238. It's also said, O beautiful one, if one accidentally observes an Ekadashi that is mixed with Dasami, by seeing the deity of Lord Krishna, the sinful reactions born of that improper act will be nullified if he does not repeat this mistake. However, foolish people who inspire others to follow such mixed Ekadashi, although they may be expert logicians, will have to wander about as ghosts along with their forefathers, right? So not only you, but all your forefathers, they'll all become ghosts like that, and they'll have to walk around. If you try to convince people by logic or by any means to follow this type of wrong Ekadashi, mixed Ekadashi. Text 2, but if you somehow observe this wrong Ekadashi sometime, then you go and take darshan of the deity of the Lord, and your sinful reactions born from this plot will be taken away. If you don't repeat it, if you don't repeatedly do this. Text 239. The observance of an Ekadashi mixed with Dasami, the 11th day mixed with the 10th day, destroys one's wealth and children and diminishes his piety and impedes his devotional service to Lord Krishna. Text 240. In the conversation between Markandeya and Bhagirath, that is found in the same literature it's described, it's stated. It should be understood that one who always observes the vow of an Ekadashi that is polluted by the touch of Dasami, right? So the 11th day polluted by the touch of the 10th day, which is the root of all sins, is not to be considered a devotee of the Supreme Lord. So according to the statement in the scriptures, that person isn't considered a devotee. Text 241. One who misinterprets the injunctions of the Puranas and observes the vow of Ekadashi mixed with the latter part of Dashami is to be considered as no better than an animal. Text 242. One who observes the vow of Ekadashi mixed with even a tinge of Dasami commits a sin of killing a Brahmana, a woman, a child, and his spiritual master, his guru. Text 243. One who observes an Ekadashi polluted by the touch of Dasami is held responsible for committing the sin of enjoying intimate relations with the wife of a dog eater. Text 244. From time immemorial, it has been prohibited to observe the vow of Ekadashi mixed with Dasami. Therefore, O king, one should first consult the learned devotees of the Supreme Lord and then observe those Ekadashis that are without any touch of Dasami. Text 245. My dear king, one becomes responsible for committing all kinds of gross and subtle sinful activities if he observes the vow of on a mixed Ekadashi. Text 246. One who, after receiving initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, knowingly or unknowingly observes a mixed Ekadashi becomes ineligible to attain the mercy of Lord Vishnu. Text 247. Elsewhere in the same literature, it's stated, if out of illusion one observes an Ekadashi that is polluted by the touch of Dasami, he will not achieve happiness in this world nor in the next. Text 248. O best among men, it is therefore not proper for anyone to observe the vow of Ekadashi that's mixed with Dasami. However, it is the injunction of the scriptures that one should carefully observe the vow of Dwadasi. O king, text 249. O king, it is the verdict of the scriptures that Ekadashi and Dwadasi are equally important and auspicious occasions. Right? That's a very important point there. Ekadashi is equally important, is very important, is supremely important, and so is Dwadasi. Right? So we shouldn't think that when the Ekadashi is over, there's nothing more to be done. Right? Dwadasi is also very important. So, text 250, the forefathers of Chandra Sharma spoke this verse to him, which is recorded in the Dwarka Mahatma. I think Dwarka Mahatma was mentioned in Padma Purana, I'm not sure. So, the glories of the Lord Krishna's city of Dwarka. O son, there is no doubt that if one does not carefully avoid observing the vow of Ekadashi that is mixed with Dasami, he will attain the state of being a ghost. Text 251. The sin of killing someone can be atoned for by visiting a holy place, Kashi, which is Benares. The sin, a debt to the forefathers, can be repaid by visiting a holy place, Gaya. Right? We go to Gaya to do the Gaya Shraddha for our forefathers. However, the sin of observing Ekadashi polluted by the touch of Dasami cannot be atoned for by visiting Kashi or Gaya. Text 252. My dear son, those who observe mixed Ekadashis are considered to have committed all the kinds of sinful activities that are possible within the three worlds. Such persons are subjected to severe punishment by Yamaraja and will appear as ghosts. Text 253. The Supreme Lord spoke this verse in the same literature. The vow of Ekadashi awards one liberation, but when one observes an Ekadashi that's mixed with Dasani, he will lose the hard-earned piety that he had accumulated during the previous hundreds of millions of kalpas. Kalpas are tens of millions of years. So billions of years of pious activities go out the window if you do the wrong thing. Text 254. Chandra Sharma offered this prayer to the Supreme Lord, which is found in the same literature. O Lord Janardana, may the sinful reactions incurred by my predecessors resulting from the following of an Ekadashi mixed with Dasani be annulled by your mercy. So this, he was praying, Chandra Sharma was praying to the Supreme Lord, please, free me from the sins of following this mixed Ekadashi. Text 255. O Lord Krishna, may the sin committed by my predecessors by remaining awake the night of the mixed Ekadashi melt away, just as salt dissolves in water, right? If you put salt in water, it just immediately dissolves, right? So just like that, the sin, it's a sin not only to observe the fast or whatever or on the mixed Ekadashi, but to also stay up late at night. You have to take rest and sleep on that night, right? If you stay up all night thinking this is the proper night to stay up, no, that's a sin. So text 256, because my grandfathers observed the vow on polluted Ekadashis, right, 11th days, they have become ghosts and therefore suffer great distress. Text 257, in the conversation between the Supreme Lord and Brahma that is found in the Padma Purana, this verse appears. Being bewildered by illusion created by Shukracharya, right? Certain Brahmanas have advocated the observance of Ekadashi mixed with Dasami for the nourishment of the demons. So apparently, if you perform this, if you misguidedly perform the Ekadashi Vrata on the mixed Ekadashi, it nourishes the demons. Text 258, O grandfather, I'm speaking the truth. There is no doubt that the vow of observing Ekadashi polluted with the touch of Dasami nourishes the demons. Text 259. O grandfather, as long as the vow of observing Ekadashi mixed with Dasami is followed, the demons will receive benefit. This was the arrangement of the demigods. Text 260. O grandfather, being nourished by the strength of such a mixed vow, the demon Hiranyaksha defeated Indra in battle and seized his kingdom. So doing all these things nourishes the demons. So it's actually, it creates strength for them when these sinful activities are performed. Text 261. Therefore, it should be understood that being bewildered by the illusion created by Shukracharya, misguided people follow polluted vows so that the demons can attain victory. Text 262. Therefore, O Markandeya, by my order, you should go to earth. May you achieve auspiciousness. You should remove the illusion created by Shukracharya regarding the observance of the vow of Ekadashi mixed with Dasami. Text 263. Being ordered by Lord Vishnu in this way, the great sage Markandeya went to the sacred place Naimisharanya, which is a forest, which is a holy forest, which is the forest itself is considered to be an incarnation or avatar of the Lord, where Lord Hari, who is worshipped by the performance of sacrifice, eternally resides. Text 264. When the sages of Naimisharanya, right, Nimisha means a second or time, and Aranya means a forest, the forest of time, right, heard the explanation of Markandeya, they became free from the illusion created by Shukracharya and were struck with wonder. So when Markandeya came and told them, they gave up the idea of accepting what Shukracharya had told them. who follow the mixed Ekadashi. Text 265, the great sage also revealed this secret to the exalted devotee Indradyumna, the devotee Indradyumna who had to do with the pastimes of Jagannath and Puri, right? And other ascetics that resided in the forest. Text 266, after hearing the words of the sage Markandeya, everyone gave up the path chalked out by Shukracharya and thus stopped observing the vow of Ekadashi mixed with Dasana. Very good. Text 267, those sinful men who cut down the desire tree in the form of observing the vow of Dwadasi with the axe of the mixed vow will reside in hell for one kalpa, millions of years. Text 268, in the Bhavishya Purana and the Markandeya Purana, it's stated, although the injunction is found in the Vedas that one should observe the vow of Ekadashi mixed with Dasana, what man will desire to fast on such a day? Similarly, no one will sacrifice a cow in this age, meaning the age of Kali, even though it is sometimes recommended in the Vedas. Text, so there are actually in scriptures, there are these 5 things. Begetting a child in the womb of your sister-in-law, right? If she's a widow, right? It's called leveret in the Bible, right? That's forbidden in Kali Yuga. Taking of sannyas is forbidden in Kali Yuga. The type of sannyas which is described in the Varnashram system, not the type of sannyas that was instituted later by Shankaracharya, Ramanuja Madhva, etc. Taking of sannyas, the cow sacrifice, the horse sacrifice, and offering meat in the Shraddha ceremony to the Pitris. These 5 things are forbidden in Kali Yuga, but in other yugas they're done. So similarly, no one will sacrifice a cow in this age, even though it is sometimes recommended in the Vedas. So in the Vedas, it recommends things to be done in all sorts of ages, but in this age, there are certain things which can't be done. So you may even find some regulation in the Vedas saying that you could follow Ekadashi mixed with Dasana, but you shouldn't do it, especially in this age. So text 269, which wise person will follow the polluted vow of Ekadashi mixed with the tinge of Dasana? Such a vow should be rejected and the vow of Dwadasi should be observed. One can break the vow of Dwadasi the next day, meaning Trayodasi, the 13th day. That's when you finish the vow. That's when the vow of Dwadasi is finished, right? So text 270, in the conversation between Vyasadeva and Sutta Goswami that is found in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana and the Kurma Purana, this verse appears. O Sutta, if an Ekadashi is not polluted, then it is most auspicious, right? If it's a pure Ekadashi. However, if it's polluted and one fasts on that day, he will have to suffer in hell. The knowers of the Puranas have given the meaning of the word shalya as piercing. Shalya means piercing. Remember, there was that sloka that we talked about before, in reference to the 3 Ekadashis, Shaina Ekadashi, Uttana Ekadashi, and Parshva Parivartana Ekadashi, which come at the beginning, end, and middle of Chaturmasya, the 4 months of the rainy season. Those are especially important to follow. Or Lord Krishna says, I feel if you don't follow them, I feel like you're piercing my body with arrows. And that here, they mentioned it again here, Shalya. So text 271. In a conversation between Sutta Goswami and Shonaka Rishi, which is found in the same literature, it's stated, foolish people who misguide others by advising them to observe mixed Ekadashi are most sinful. And as a result, they will have to suffer in hell known as Rorava. You can read all about the different types of hells in the Bhagavatam in the 5th canto. Text 272 to 273. Those who are ignorant of the glories of the vow of observing Ekadashi and yet instruct others to observe Ekadashis mixed with Darshini are so sinful that if one sees them, one must look at the sun to become purified. This is a very common thing which is stated in scriptures, that if you see something inauspicious, you should look at the sun to purify your existence. In fact, in noon Gayatri, we make the Vyoma Mudra or the Yamagranta, and we look through it at the sun to live 100 years, live 100 years. Yeah. Jivema Sarada Shadam. Right. And we say that mantra. So text 274. Such a person right? Such a person, what are we talking about? A person who sees a person who advocates following mixed Ekadashi. Just seeing a sinful person like that, or hearing that person instruct about that, right? Then one should purify himself by looking at the sun. So he says here in the next, he says, that person to purify himself can chant the mantra Namo Narayanaya. So it should be Om Namo Narayanaya. The Namo Narayanayeti, right? Mantra. When we have iti at the end there, it means the Namo Narayanaya has to be said, right? Or it also says here Dvadasakshara, the 12th syllable mantra, which is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So either the 8th syllable, Om Namo Narayanaya, or the 12th syllable, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He should chant those mantras to become purified if he hears or if he sees a person advocating the following of mixed Ekadashi. Can an insignificant person ascertain the duties of people in general? Shame on foolish people who misguide others in the name of religion. Text 275. O foremost Brahmana, one who observes the vow of Ekadashi mixed with dasami is certainly envious of the Supreme Lord. This is a fact that I am disclosing to you. Text 276. Because the Supreme Lord is present in the form of Dwadasi, one should renounce without hesitation the mixed Ekadashi and follow the vow of Dwadasi instead. It is also stated, text 277, it is stated that in the scriptures that if there is an argument between two people about mixed Ekadashi, a third person should intervene and persuade them to follow the vow of observing Dwadasi, and then break their fast on the Triyodasi, the 13th day. Text 278. I do not consider it to be a sacred literature that advocates the observance of mixed Ekadashi, even if it is personally stated by Lord Brahma. Text 279. Therefore, in the Naradiya Purana, it's stated, if there is some doubt because of various statements made by various sages, it is best to observe the vow of Dwadasi and break one's fast on the Triyodasi. So if you're in doubt whether the Ekadashi is mixed, don't follow it and follow the vow of Dwadasi, where you fast on the Dwadasi and then break the fast on the Triyodasi, the 13th day. Text 280. Sage Markandeya conveyed to King Indradyumna the instructions imparted to him by the Supreme Lord. O exalted sage, if there are doubts or arguments regarding the particular Ekadashi, it is better to follow the vow of Dwadasi and break one's fast on the next day. This is my order, and so there is no need to argue about it. By making concessions, people simply become degraded. Text 281. Therefore, Lord Brahma has stated, if a mixed Ekadashi overlaps the following day, one should not fast. If one does, so if it's the third day, it also overlaps, right? If one does so, he will lose his children, just as one does by giving charity when a star known as Marga is visible. So one should not give charity underneath the star Marga. So text 282, one should not fast on a mixed Ekadashi if he desires good children and grandchildren. Text 283 to 284, Vyasadeva has stated, if due to poverty or confinement in jail, a person fasts on an Ekadashi that's mixed in dasami, he will fall down from his practice of religious principles and lose his children. This is a fact. His duration of life will also be diminished by 1 year. This is the verdict of the scriptures. Text 285. Therefore, the sage Gobila has stated, O Brahmana, if an Ekadashi mixed with Dwadasi, the next day, the 12th day, one should fast on Dwadasi and not, if an Ekadashi is mixed with Dwadasi, one should fast on the Dwadasi and not on the Ekadashi. By doing so, he will attain the merit of performing 100 horse sacrifices. Then he should break his fast on the 13th day, Triyodasi. Text 286. In the Naradiya Purana, it's stated, if an Ekadashi is mixed, then one should fast on the dasami, one should fast on the Dwadasi and break his fast on the Triyodasi. So if the Ekadashi is mixed with the Dwadasi, don't fast on the Ekadashi, fast on the Dwadasi. This is called a Mahadwadasi if you look at it in the calendar, right? So that's what it means by following Ekadashi or following Mahadwadasi. So, text 287. It is also said, if an Ekadashi is polluted by contact with Dwadasi, then one should fast on the Dwadasi and break his vow on the Triodasi, the 13th day. This is the procedure. Text 288 in the Kurma Purana, it stated, if an Ekadashi is mixed, then one should fast on Dwadasi, so mixed with the Dwadasi. One should never fast on Ekadashi mixed with a tinge of Dasani, the 10th day. So if the Ekadashi is mixed with the previous day, don't fast. If the Ekadashi is mixed with the next day, then fast the next day. And on the third day, the Triodasi, break the fast. If an Ekadashi is mixed with another day, if there is some doubt in this matter, one should simply fast on Dwadasi. Text 290 in the Brahma Purana, it states, if one desires his own welfare, he should observe a fast on Dwadasi, just in case the Ekadashi is mixed, right? And then break his fast on Triodasi. Okay, so just in case, if there's any doubt about it, fast on the Dwadasi, right? Rather than fasting on a mixed Ekadashi. If you're not sure about whether it's mixed or pure, fast on the Dwadasi and break it on the Triodasi. Text 291, O best of kings, Triodasi, the 13th day, is a suitable day for performing pious activities such as giving charity, conducting fire sacrifices, chanting mantras, feeding brahmanas, and observing vows. Text 292, in the Skanda Purana, it's stated, if an Ekadashi is touched by the previous day, then it's not proper to fast or worship on that day. One should perform fasting and worship the next day and break his fast on Triodasi. This will award him the merit of performing 100 sacrifices as well as liberation from material bondage. Text 293. When there is an overlapping of Dwadasi on Ekadashi, right, one should fast on the Dwadasi and break his fast on the Triodasi. Text 294. Those who devotedly observe the vow of Ekadashi in this manner will attain the abode of Lord Vishnu. If one does not follow this system, his destination will surely be hell, right? So it's very important to determine the actual date to fast on. Text 295, the predominating deities of Ekadashi are the sages, and the predominating deity of Dwadasi is the Supreme Lord, who carries a discus in his hand. Text 296. In a conversation between Markandeya and Indrajumna, this verse appears. O king, Ekadashi is the day of sages, and Dwadasi is the day of Lord Hari. So previously we heard that Ekadashi was called Hari Dine, the day of Lord Hari. But now when they're talking about mixed and pure Ekadashis, right? They're talking about the day of Hari being the Dwadasi, and the day of sages being Ekadashi. So, O king, Ekadashi is the day of sages, and Dwadasi is the 12th day is the day of Lord Hari, who holds a chakra in his hand. Why then do people not follow the vow of Dwadasi? Text 297. O king, Dwadasi is supremely auspicious. It awards one happiness, and it bestows upon one liberation. This has been stated earlier. By following this vow, all of one's faults are rectified and one gains great benefit. Text 298. O king, Ekadashi is like the body and Dwadasi is like the soul. So imagine Ekadashi is like a body and Dwadasi is the soul. Which is more important? The soul, right? Thousands of people who have attained perfection by observing the vow of Dwadasi. Text 299 to 300. Those 14 exalted personalities became undisputed emperors, possessors of unlimited wealth, and had immense bodily strength. The secret of their success, right, was that they followed the vow of Dwadasi throughout their lives. By doing so, they became empowered by Lord Vishnu and thus were great heroes and vanquishers of numerous demons. Text 301 to 303. They were, here are these 14 people: Kuvalashva, Vishvagandhi, Harishchandra, Nala, Prithu, Maruta, Bharata, Kartavirarjuna, Paihaya, Mandhata, Sagara, Ramachandra, Kukutsa, and Nahusha. So these 14. They executed the vow of Dwadasi, and as a result, they became emperors of this world after enjoying heavenly pleasures. Text 304. O king, there were 70 descendants of the dynasty of King Janaka. King Janaka was the father of Sita, right? And he attained perfection through karma yoga, according to Bhagavad Gita, who attained perfection as a result of observing the vow of Odyssey, 70 of his descendants. Text 305. King Purukutsa was the son of Mandhata, who belonged to the Surya Vamsa, or the Surya dynasty. He observed the vow of Dwadasi and achieved the rare perfection of being freed from the bondage of karma. Text 306. Although Mandhata and his son, Yovanashva, were killed on the battlefield, they attained the supreme abode of the Lord, Vaikuntha, because they observed the vow of Dwadasi. Text 307. As a result of observing the vow of Dwadasi, known as Aparajita, King Bharata, the son of Shakuntala, and Dushmanta returned to the transcendental abode of the Lord, Vaikuntha. Text 308. A king, Ela's son, O king, Ela's son, Pururava, was the ruler of the entire earth, and yet he observed the vow of Dwadasi and worshipped the Supreme Lord. Because of this, he was transferred to Vaikuntha, which continues to exist even during the blazing fire of devastation. Text 309. O king, all of these sages among gods achieved the highest goal of life by observing the vow of Dwadasi. Now hear the names of Brahmanas who had also attained similar success by observing the vow of Dwadasi. Text 310 to 313. O king, Yavakrita, Vaidarbha, Mandavya, Kaushika, Bhardvaja, Kanva, Agastya, and 88,000 sages who practice lifelong brahmacharya or celibacy, and who stay in front of the sun god's chariot. I believe they're called, I'm not sure, but all of them achieved perfection as a result of observing the vow of Dwadasi, just like me. Do not maintain any doubt in this regard. O king, Lord Hari has personally glorified this confidential vow of Dwadasi, which is very dear to the Vaishnavas and which nullifies all of one's offenses. Text 314. The maintainer of the people, you should not maintain any doubt about the vow of Dwadasi, which destroys all sinful reactions and awards very great benefit. Text 315. Ata sampurna lakshanena vidha lakshanam. We will now describe the symptoms of mixed Ekadashi. Okay, so now we're going to get into some very interesting mathematical discussions and exactly how to understand what is a mixed Ekadashi, because we were talking all about a mixed Ekadashi. We're talking about pure Ekadashi. And so the next section is going to get quite technical. So I think probably it's a good idea to leave it here. Do you have any questions about that? I mean, I think most of it was just saying the same thing, the importance of observing a pure Ekadashi and not observing the mixed Ekadashi with the Dasani, the 10th day, right? If the Ekadashi is mixed if you're in doubt, or if the Ekadashi is mixed with the Dwadasi, you have to observe the Dwadasi, which is like called the Mahadwadasi, and then break fast on the Trayodasi. Okay, I think it's very simple. Yeah. And they go to great lengths to explain the advantages of, all the benefits of observing Ekadashi and Mahadwadasi, and all the disadvantages and all the sinful reactions that will come to you if you observe the wrong Ekadashi, the mixed Ekadashi. That's why they say, when in doubt, just observe Dwadasi, the Dwadasi Vratam, not Ekadashi Vratam.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo